Welcome to Solutions with Courtney Anderson. I am your host, Courtney Anderson. I want to encourage you to go to courtneyanderson.com and take part in our community. Look at our show notes, access the things that I share with you. Always take a visit by our show sponsors. and let me know what's on your mind. Show suggestions, feedback, anything that you want to share. So today's show is one of our financial fierceness series shows, and being financially fierce, it just means, of course, that we are proactive, we are assertive, we have a strategy that we are employing for our financial. These are our personal financial, and sometimes, of course, it will trickle over into our professional or business finances. But we're looking at the big picture. We're trying to get to a point where we have surpassed our goals and that we can sustain those levels of a life where we are practicing the joyful art of business, right? In other words, whatever it is we do for work, we feel good about. And in addition to that, with our income, we are focusing on, in many instances, of course, financial independence, being at that point where we have enough income and assets from our income from our assets, stuff we own generates income, and that's enough for us to live debt free and pay all of our bills. And so we're not worried about whether or not something happens at our job, or we're laid off, or one of our businesses fails. I mean, it's stressful, and that's not a good thing, but financially we already have the resources and the things that we own that generate enough income so that we are financially independent, irrespective of any other great things that may happen or horrible things that may happen. So that is what we're doing in the series. And in this specific show, our show topic is why ultra wealthy, beyond rich people love bargains, and why you should too. Why ultra wealthy, beyond rich people love bargains, and why you should too. So, hopefully, if you are ultra wealthy, then you already feel that great, you love a bargain. Um, and if you're ultra wealthy and you don't love a bargain, then this will make you think about maybe why you should. And for all of us who aren't ultra wealthy, maybe we're just wealthy or not wealthy at all, then this might be a little bit of an insight for us to look at our finances and our strategy and look at our goals, of course, our financial goals, and ask ourselves, are we making the best choices? Are we going to get the best outcomes of our of these decisions that we're making in terms of our finances? So let's delve into this. One of the reasons why I thought the show was important is because over and over and over again, I have conversations with people that don't, to me, make any financial sense. So somebody will be telling me about something really expensive, right? Like they bought a really expensive item of clothing or really expensive um, cover. This is so weird to me, and and I'm showing my lack of fashion or you know popular culture knowledge by just telling how I see the world. But years ago, it was a long time ago now, the first time somebody explained to me that they went and there was a car that they had possession of, and that they took the car and they put extra sort of aftermarket shiny wheel coverings on top of the wheels, sort of like a hubcap thing, but a rim they called it. And I had no idea, first of all, these things existed, and secondly, I had no idea how much they cost. And that was the thing that was so odd was there were people I there's so many examples. Okay, so as a lawyer, my law firm, I used to handle work for other out-of-state law firms. I would be a local counsel for big firms from other parts of the country, and I'd go to court for them in small cases in my local area, represent these big law firms. And so I went to court on a case where somebody had a vehicle that was repossessed. So they bought a vehicle, they didn't make their payments, and eventually the lender took the vehicle back because there was a breach of contract, right? So you don't pay your car note for a while, and that depends on the lender and the contract you have and what a while is, but you don't conform to the contract, and then that opens the potential, very high likelihood that they're going to come take their property back, which is what happened. And the weird thing is that even though the people hadn't paid the car note, the vehicle note, their payment, right? They had gone out and bought these really expensive rims, thousands of dollars, and put them on the vehicle. And I thought, and I asked them actually because I was curious. I thought, well, golly, you could have just taken the money that you wasted on the rims for a car that you didn't even own at that point that you were just making payments on, and you could just made the car payment. But I didn't understand the status symbol and the psychology behind how important it is for some people to have other people think that they have what they've decided are items that would signal that they have resources, that they have money. I didn't understand it. I still don't understand it. Because money is supposed to be a tool. So again, we've talked about in other programs. Money itself doesn't, except for maybe some um, older systems of money before paper money, where maybe you had coinage that maybe did have some sort of mineral composition that itself had value. But absent that, paper money doesn't have any value itself. It's just something that the society decides has money. And I mean, currency is a fascinating area of business and economics to study, but because so much of it is psychological. But the whole idea is to hold on and to attain enough resources so that then you have assets that then produce income for you so that you're financially independent. Like, that's the idea, right? I have enough stuff, and then my stuff generates income, rental income, um, investment income. I mean, that's the whole purpose, is I own things. That's step one. And step two is those things generate income. And then that income is enough for me to live my lifestyle and not worry about, if something, horrible happens, to my job or something of that nature. The whole system falls apart though if we're not focusing on owning stuff. And it really isn't helpful if we're not focusing on owning stuff. And while we're doing that, not owning stuff or working toward that, you just waste money on things that don't make any sense to me. What's the return on investment on a shiny car tire cover? Nothing. Especially when you don't even own the car. I mean, I can understand if somebody said, "Hey, this is a car. It's paid for. I own it. All I have to pay every year is registration and some insurance on it." So and now because I love it so much, I want to kind of fix it up and make it beautiful. I'm going to put extra things on it to make it beautiful. I own it though. I could see some of a logical reason for that. But I don't see it when you don't even own the vehicle. But I saw people do this time and time again. They even have businesses where you can go out and you can rent those rims because people don't have the thousands of dollars to pay for it. So they'll go out and they'll rent the shiny wheel covers for a vehicle they don't own. I mean, that just seems layer on top of layer of poor financial decisions. It doesn't make any sense. You don't own anything. And then you're going out and spending money on things to sort of spruce up and make look fancy things that you don't even own. It's not logical at all. Now, sometimes when you go buy a fancier car, it comes with fancier wheel cover rims on it, and that would help defeat the problem. But we have another show and other programs we talk about, with assets and things like vehicles and when to buy used and when to you know um, go out and borrow money. But the purpose of this show is to understand all of this is within a framework of what are you trying to do with money? What's the goal? Do you want to get some money and then have it? Or do you want to not have any money? When I say get money and have it, I mean you want to earn it or obtain the money, and then you want to eventually use it to own things. You could own money itself, and money can generate interest, which can then be income. But you need to own it. You have to have it. If you spend everything, then you don't have any money, and then you're moving nowhere near the idea of owning stuff and then that stuff generating income because you don't own anything. So you certainly can't generate any income, and then you just stay in the situation of being precarious with your income. You're nowhere near financially independent. So if the goal is financially independent, either to attain it or to sustain it, once you are financially independent, you want to keep that system going, right? You don't want to change that and go to a system where you don't have any stuff, you don't have any income, and now you're dependent on the whims of a job or your a business or whatever. It's very risky, or somebody else giving you money, maybe a family member or friend or spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend or something. You want stability. You want low stress. The only way you're going to have that is if you own stuff that you own it. And then you own the income it generates, and then that gives you something to give you some stability. So this whole show, of course, is why do ultra wealthy, beyond rich people, why do they love a bargain? And it ties into this big picture idea we're talking about. What's the purpose of money? The purpose of money is to use it to own stuff that generates income, and then use that to be financially independent. That's the goal. One thing that you'll hear, and it's a stereotype, and we have a lot of programs we talk about stereotypes and how destructive they can be, is people will say, "Oh, rich people are so cheap. Oh, they're so cheap." Okay, I prefer the word bargain instead of cheap, or frugal. But there's something to this idea that that wealthy people are cheap, right? They like a bargain. They drive a hard bargain, right? And anybody who sort of works with this type of clientele knows exactly what I'm talking about. They do. I've had many different professional opportunities. I've shared in lots of programs. I had the opportunity to be independent and work my way through life from my late teens and support myself. And so I had lots of jobs in different industries. One of the jobs I learned a lot in, I worked in the sales industry. I was a salesperson at an automobile dealer, car dealer. I was a car salesperson. And yes, they sold new vehicles and on occasion also sold some used vehicles. So I wasn't primarily a used car salesperson. I was primarily a new car salesperson, but So I learned a lot in the car sales business, and anecdotally, I saw exactly what we're talking about in the show. I saw that people who had means, had a lot of income, um, and assets would be the most difficult person to bargain with. So let's say it's somebody that has the means that they were going to pay cash, and I worked at an Acura dealership, Acura vehicles. Um, and so let's say the person's going to pay cash for a $45,000 vehicle. So they're going to pay cash. They would sit and demand a price that wouldn't move at all. They were the most, and the price would be like rock bottom, dirt cheap price where the dealership wouldn't make really anything. But they knew that because they would have researched it before they came over there. They knew exactly what they wanted. And they were just there to pay for it and leave. And you couldn't really do anything with those kind of customers to change their mind. Because they weren't financing it, so I couldn't sit around and talk to them about car payments and everything. They were just going to pay for it, so they didn't. That took away a lot of my bargaining position. Because I talk about it in the other programs, we talk about vehicles, but usually car salespeople, I need you to finance it because I can make more money. I can make money on the financing part. I can use car payments to sort of move other numbers. So I can say to somebody, hey, what car payment do you want? Do you want $299 or can you do 320? And the person says, oh, I want 299. Okay, great, I'll get you to 299. Now, how I'm going to do that is usually going to be advantageous to the car dealership and not to the person financially, but that's part of another discussion. But the person who came in that had resources and was paying cash, I couldn't talk to them at all about any of that stuff because it didn't matter. And they knew exactly what they're going to pay, and they would put that offer down. And if I wouldn't meet it, they'd be like, okay, I'll leave and I'll go buy it somewhere else. So they were a tough customer. They wanted a bargain, and they meant it. And there's nothing I could do to change their mind. And I knew that after I dealt with one of these customers because you almost lose the deal. And you'd rather get the deal than have that customer just go somewhere else and give somebody else the cash, right? So it was stressful. I also learned anecdotally when I worked in food service. I worked in a restaurant as a delivery person for pizza. So I would drive in my vehicle. The order came into the restaurant, and then my job is to drive to the people's location and deliver the pizza. And I will tell you anecdotally, if I had a call to a lower income area, I would know I would probably get a better tip than if I went to sort of a higher income, like if a more expensive home, I would get a smaller tip. Now that seems kind of weird, and you would think, why does it happen? I don't. There's research on this, and I thought part of it was that maybe somebody in a lower income property or neighborhood themselves maybe had worked for tips, and so maybe they understood how much of a big deal it would be if I got $3 or $4 instead of getting 50 cents. I thought maybe that was it, that they personally identified with what it was like. Um, the other part of it is that there's a stereotype out there again, like I mentioned, where people of means, right, wealthy or super wealthy or ultra wealthy, are cheap. And that stereotype, of course, we don't ever want to make decisions based just on stereotypes because it's not good data. Stereotypes could be the beginning of our research, and our research may lead to good data. But there's something to this idea that people who have money don't like to part with it. And if you look in the show notes, you'll see I have a couple of quotes in the show notes. So one of the quotes is from Kiplinger, which is a media publication aimed toward and for people of means, wealthier people. And the quote says, "The biggest barrier to becoming rich is living like you're rich before you are." And it's from an article that's the frugal habits of the super rich. So their link is in there and go check that out, right? And so the argument there is, hey, you're not going to become rich because you live like you're rich before you are, and now you're going to be poor. You must be frugal, right? It's from an article literally entitled "Frugal Habits of the Super Rich." Okay, sort of backing up potentially this idea of what I was saying is that the more means someone has, the more money and resources people have, the cheaper and the more of a bargain that they really, really are going to get because they won't back off. A lot of the things you can use to incentivize somebody to buy something, right? You can't do it with somebody who has a lot of means, and they will get what they want anyway. They know that, right? So it's difficult for you to lure them into something that's going to be disadvantageous to them because they are going to do their research and they're not going to spend a penny more than what they've decided they're going to spend. And they mean it. And if you make it difficult for them to give you their money, they'll just walk away from that deal and go find somebody else to give their money to. And that's not a joke. They understand the power they have in the bargaining um, negotiation situation. And it's difficult, again, even for the best salesperson, to get them something they don't want. They're going to get exactly what they want. They're going to pay exactly the price they want for it. And you're not going to be able to change that. Now, if you happen to be on the receiving end of having what they want and it's what they really want, then they're going to pay the price, right, for quality, but they're not going to pay a penny more than they believe the value is worth. And so this quote, right, that the barrier to becoming rich is living like you're rich. To me, it ties into that idea of when I kept, years ago when I first saw this with the wheel cover things, I thought, well, why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense at all. Like the first thing you want to do is own a vehicle. Then if you want to go put stuff on it after you own it, I can see that, to kind of personalize it, make it yours because you're going to be keeping it for, I keep a vehicle personally until it runs into the ground. So I kept the vehicle for 17 years. My last vehicle made it 12 years. Like, I don't part with the vehicle unless it starts to have a lot of mechanical problems, and there's so many mechanical problems it's costing me more to keep it up and running than to just let it go, and or the mechanical problems are get to a point where I'm scared to drive it. Like, I'm scared I might die, and that actually happened with the last one at 12 years, which was disappointing. But hey, it doesn't make any logical sense if the goal is to keep money so that you can own things that generate income, and then you just give money away for things that don't do anything for you. Shiny stuff that has no value, that it's on it, you don't even own it, and you don't even own the thing that you had it attached to. That's why the people who had their vehicle repossessed were upset with me and kept saying, well, what about our rims? Are we gonna get our rims back? And I was like, no, they repossessed that and already sold that car at auction. Like, it's done, it's gone. The terms of the contract when you finance a car will say that, like, don't put stuff in there you don't own it, right? And definitely if you don't own it and you haven't paid your payments on your contract, because then the people who do own the the vehicle as collateral are going to come take it back. This is, of course, a U.S. based legal discussion, but it's going to be similar in many parts of the world. So my argument is this: what's the goal with the money? We're financial fierce, you know, focused people. What's the goal? The goal is to have it so that I can use it to own stuff that generates income. That's the goal. I can't do any of that if I just keep giving it away for no reason. So I've seen people, I've had discussions with people. Somebody was telling me they were going to buy a $2,000 dress, and I just thought, like, wow, that's the silliest thing I've ever heard. I can understand if somebody was saying I was going to buy a $2,000 wedding dress, right? Or I was going to buy something for a, once in a lifetime event, or I'm going to a very important event, they're a very important social event or work event. I've been to events like, the Grammys, which are amazing and exciting, which are a music industry preeminent event. If you're going to something like that, okay, I could then understand it's a very specific thing, right? Like a wedding or this big thing, or I'm being honored at this, or it's a big professional this. Okay, I'm listening. But just a random thing. This was from somebody who didn't even, like have anything they were doing. It was just sort of like I've seen this with people, right? Men and women with accessories and jewelry and brands of things that they sort of feel like if I have this type of a bag or purse or wallet or sunglasses or jewelry, people, I guess, will think I'm something wealthy. And it doesn't make any sense, of course, because most wealthy people, especially people that come from families where it's multi-generational, right? So it's not like they're the first person who ever was wealthy. It's like, their parents are wealthy, and the grandparents, the great grandparents, what they call old money. Hey, now people want to look nice and have nice things, and people do spend money on things they think are quality, right? Like they won't want to buy something that's cheap and gonna fall apart. They'll want to buy something that's nice and quality, and then they'll of course use it forever. But this quote, the barrier to becoming rich is living like you're rich. I completely have my own anecdotal experience, and the research backs it up. Because you can't live like this. You can't go out and buy something. Look, if you were worth $20 million and you wanted to waste money on a $2,000 dress, it would be not really a good idea. And many people that I said, again, that's their money. Now, not that it's somebody else earned it, and then it was like that was my grandfather's money or my spouse's money. The person who themselves hasn't earned it, sometimes those people are wasteful because they didn't earn it. Um, but you rarely see the person who went through all the hassle of getting the money and then using it to own the asset that generates the income. Most people who went through all that work don't then just throw the money away because they know how long and how hard and stressful and tiresome it was to get it and earn it. And they also understand the risk is if the moment that you can go from ultra wealthy to desperate poverty by just getting rid of your money. Because that's the only thing that's a difference, right? Between the person who's destitute and homeless and the person who's, really wealthy is just owning that stuff. If you got rid of all your stuff and you made bad money decisions and get rid of the money and you don't have any more things that you own that generate income, now you're going to be poor and destitute. And that can happen overnight, right? That's why when you see these huge financial contractions and events, right, that you see people who are so overwhelmed by that stress, people hurt themselves or threaten to take their own lives because they understand that the only difference between them and that person who was homeless was the assets that they were holding and that income that it was generating to give them, that buffer and that comfort. And if you get rid of the money through bad investments and risky deals or just waste it, then you're out of money. When you're out of money, you don't have any more money, then you're just like everybody else with no money, right? So most people understand that, right? It's like, it's not the best analogy, but your health, right? So if you're somebody and you think, oh, I really care about my health, and I don't smoke, cigarettes, and I do everything I can to eat well and everything, you understand that that's not any kind of magical protection. All that is a status quo that you created in part by your good choices, and of course by also just fortune, what were your genes, things of that nature. Um, but you understand that if you're someone who's very focused on your health, and then tomorrow you start smoking cigarettes and abusing yourself with what you're eating and how your life is, your health can go downhill, really quickly. It's not like you're not going to have the same consequences everybody else would have, right? So it's a temporary status, and it may be something that you prolong if you continue not to smoke and you continue to eat well and exercise and monitor your health. It may be, um, but it's just like money. It's a temporary situation. If you want to prolong it, we talk about achieving and surpassing our goals and then sustaining it. If you want to sustain it, you have to continue to be vigilant, right? That's one of the reasons why people who have means and are wealthy are cheap. One of the or we'll say they love bargains. It's one of the reasons is because you understand that that's what you need to do is continue to own stuff that generates income. The moment that scenario changes and you don't own anything that generates any income, you're going to be just as at risk as everybody else in the world is, right? And under stress and pressure for not having enough resources. And people who again are aware of this continue to monitor it. Now, there are situations we talked about in some of our other programs where someone is so obsessed with, oh, I'm running out of money, when it really is illogical, right? Where they do have whatever $20 million and they say, well, I'm not even gonna, get a nice gift for my grandchild because I feel like I can't spend it. At some point, it becomes a little unhealthy. So you get to sit with people and budget and say, okay, what's 5%? What's 2%? What's your monthly income doing nothing, just from your assets? What percentage of that could you take for something for your grandchild to try to help them become healthy? Because again, it's psychological, right? And some people are so driven by that fear. Um, of not having money or running out of resources that they make negative choices and they don't treat themselves healthy or other people. I know people who, even though they have the resources, deny even themselves. It's one thing to say I don't want to go out and spend $10,000 on shiny wheel covers and $2,000 on a dress. It's another thing to say I have stuff that has holes. My clothes have holes in them, but I'm not going to get a nice $30 newer pair of pants because I just don't want to spend the money and I just feel like I don't need to. At some point again we can become unhealthy, and that's where we have to put it down on paper and look at the numbers. Okay, what's a percentage that you could live with, understanding that you need to have clean clothes that don't have holes. You'll see this. What I'm saying is the stereotype of what a wealthy person is and what a wealthy person actually is in real life are so different. And there have been a lot of media, there, Millionaire Next Door, and a lot of these things trying to get out there and sort of kind of counter this myth that people who don't have money and aren't around a lot of wealthy people, I think they think that that's what wealthy people do. Like you just go out and buy the most expensive dress, the most expensive jewelry, the most expensive sunglasses, the most expensive shiny wheel cover, and you just spend, 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 spend. But that isn't what wealthy people do. Wealthy people, especially we talked about generations of wealthy people who understand that the opportunity, the low stress, the power to make different choices that comes with money only comes if you can hold on to it. So many people understand wealthy people do not spend, and they don't have shiny things that you wouldn't look at what they wear, beyond that it's clean and doesn't have holes in it, and or what they drive. There's a lot of media reports, or they're, the way they live. It doesn't seem, I think, to meet the sort of media of someone who's like, I won the lottery and I'm going to go buy 10 sports cars and, 4 mansions but that's because they want to hold on to the money. The money isn't something that you get and then you give it all away, because then you don't own anything, you don't have any income, and then you're poor. And that's why when you look at lotto winners, or I saw a great documentary it was about the United States, but it was about professional athletes who were professional athletes in the US. They become professional athletes very young, which makes sense, right? Late teens or maybe early 20s. And many of them in this documentary didn't come from families of wealth. So they didn't have much money or any money at all to what to them seemed like it was unlimited money. And they went out and they spent it all on cars and in bad investments in businesses that they didn't really know a lot about. Everybody in their family expected a mansion and a car. And so they just spent everything. And the documentary was about basically how sad it is. The numbers are astounding. The amount of people who go into professional sports, and on paper make hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars, and the amount of them that end up poor, bankrupt, homeless. I mean, it was just depressing. But it was because people didn't understand what money is. Money isn't, I have $4 million, I'm rich. No, 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 no. What it is whatever amount of dollars I have. If it's $4, $40, $4 million, $40 million, my goal is to hold on as much as I can and to leverage that money to own stuff that generates income. That's my goal. But the popular media that you see in movies a lot of times, or music videos, is that you get the money and then you just spend everything on stuff. The idea that whether it's $4 or $4 million, if you spend it and you don't have it, you're broke. And you'll see it with the professional athletes. You'll see it with entertainers. You'll think, well, how did that person end up bankrupt? They made all, they had all those hit songs. We saw them, because they spent it all. So when I said ultra wealthy, beyond rich, what I meant is not somebody who got a little bit of money and spent all the money and now they don't have any money. I'm talking, because that's a sad situation. That's depressing. It's about whatever amount of money you have, use that to own things that generate income. And then let that income be what you live off of. That's the goal. That's financial independence. If people had done that with just a little bit of the money they'd made as a professional athlete or entertainer or lottery winner, then they'd be set for life. And they'd be set in a way that they'd be set for life financially. And if they were prudent, then their assets would grow in value, and then if they have generations of relatives or other causes they wanted to give it to, then they'd be able to benefit, so many other people. But they don't do that because they don't remember, what do we love when we're of means or beyond wealthy or ultra wealthy or wealthy? We love a bargain. Because our goal is to hold on to our money so that we can use it to continue to own things that generate income. That's the goal with money. The goal isn't just randomly wasted on stuff that does. A dress is not going to generate income. Just a random dress that you bought at a fancy store. Tire covers are not going to generate income. Jewelry and sunglasses and designer jeans are not going to generate income. Now, as you have more income, then you are going to be able to afford nicer types of jeans, because if your goal is, hey, I'm going to take 3% of what I have and just waste that on just fun things, then of course the more money you have, the larger 3% is in dollars, then of course you go more buy different stuff. So it looks like maybe that you're wasting money, but if you stick to your formulas of what you're going to do in terms of how much money is you're just going to play money, then you'll be fine financially. The problem is when somebody who 3% of what they have is $30 and 3% of what somebody else has is 30 grand, and they try to live the same way. You can't do this because you don't have the same ratios. So that quote, again, biggest barrier to becoming rich is living like you're rich before you are. I completely concur. That's why wealthy people, it looks like they're spending so much money, but that's because it isn't. It's a small percentage of what they have. They just have bigger numbers, so that small percentage affords them a different caliber of product. Remember, like I said, a bargain is I'm going to buy high quality things that last a long time. A bargain is not that I'm going to go buy really cheap stuff that's not going to last at all because I'm going to have to keep replacing it. That's not a bargain. The other quote I have in the show notes is, being cheap helps you to become rich. It doesn't happen by accident. And as many wealthy, unflashy people know personally, being cheap helps you to remain comfortably well off. And that's a word that you really are familiar with if you have any resources, or you should become familiar with if you aspire to. The word comfortable. A lot of people I talk to, when you're talking to them, oh, I'm so fortunate, I'm comfortable. That's what that means is that's somebody who has resources, and what they mean is it's code for I'm financially independent. I'm comfortable. So I'm not stressed out if something happens at my business or my job, or many people still work jobs, full-time jobs. What they mean is I'm comfortable. Like I have enough stuff that I own that generates income, that even if this falls apart with my business or with this job I have or something bad happens, then I'm comfortable. I have the money to live on. That's what that means. And I think it's actually a really good word, because I think it does define what financial independence, what it should be, is comfort. Right? I don't have the stress of, a bill or debt or anything like that. And I have opportunity if I want to do something or need to, right? My refrigerator broke. So I'm comfortable. I can go get that from one of my accounts, get my new refrigerator. I'm fine. You know what I mean? It's still a hassle, but it's not where, oh gosh, I don't have the money. What am I going to do? We just won't have a refrigerator. Or I'll have to borrow from a lender that's basically a loan shark that'll charge me incredible interest that I'll never be able to get out of debt. So comfort. And the final part of the quote, this is from Time magazine. It says, it's the wannabes, the aspirationals, who are always drive new cars, wearing designer labels, dropping big bucks on swanky dinners. Often those folks aren't rich, though they try so desperately to appear so. They don't have nearly as much money in the bank compared to the prudent, ascetic, Warren Buffett types who have money to a large extent because they don't spend it. And that is really important. They have money to a large extent because they don't spend it. Remember, the money I can do two things with, big picture. I'm going to hold it and use it then to either be an asset or to allow me to attain another asset that I own that's going to generate income, right? So I hold it, generate income. Option two, I let go of it. I don't hold it. So I spent it. I let go of it. I don't have it at all. So in fact, I'm not am I only not generating income off of it. I don't have control of it at all. It's gone. Somebody else has it. I gave it to them. I let go of it. So keep it or let go of it. Well, if you're trying to become financially independent or sustain that comfort level being financially independent, then you understand I need to hold it. I'm not going to just let go of it. For what? That's not helping me at all. It's hurting me. And that is the reason why the whole show topic. You got to love a bargain because you can't just waste money on stuff. And in fact, there's a thrill that a lot of people of resources have. A thrill. I talk to people all the time, and they're so excited about some great deal they got, and they'll sit and talk to you about it for a long time. I went to so and so place. You're not going to believe the deal I got. It was a bargain. It was a steal, and and they'll tell people because they're excited and they're proud of what they've done. But then they also know that the other person will be interested in that because I know myself. I love a bargain, and I mean I love it. Nothing makes me happier because my goal is not to just give the money and let go of it to these other entities. My goal is to hold as much of it as I can so that I can be comfortable. I mean, that's sort of the purpose. And uh, one of the things that you really need to think about if the financial fierceness is an issue that you're focused on, it's at every little decision. That's why you don't go waste a whole bunch of money. I'll tell you again, a lot of people say, well, that's not true. I know people and they have really nice stuff. Again, yeah, because they make more money, they do. But the other thing is, how long do they hold on to stuff? If I buy something that's really well made, a great pair of shoes, a nice handbag, a great vehicle that's really well made, right? Ideally, I'm going to hold on to it. Like I said, my goal is to hold on to a vehicle for as close to 20 years as I can. I had to let them go, like I said early sometimes just because it wasn't as well made. But for myself, I'll give you an example. So I went to an outlet store, which I love because the idea, in some instances, the idea is that you're getting a better, cheaper bargain. I always check to make sure. Um, an outlet, so it's not the prime store at the mall, but it's their sort of the idea is that you're going to go to this little outlet store at what they call usually outlet malls, and you're getting like these bargains, like overstock or something that didn't sell well or whatever. Although sometimes be very very careful and check because sometimes you're not really getting a bargain and you're just getting something that was made for the outlet and they claim it's marked down, but it really isn't. You have to do your research. So I went and bought a handbag, and let's say it was probably like 10 years ago, because it had to be, I'm thinking, at an outlet store. But it's a fancy brand and a nice bag, and made of the nice materials or whatever. So the thing is, what I'll do is think, okay, I'll take care of it, keep it clean. That's one of the things that take care of your stuff. So recently, I was looking at that bag, and I was realizing that bag looks bad. It just looks old, like it's seen better years. So I went and found a local place where they'll go and refurbish shoes and bags and all kind of things and clean and that's what they'll do. And so I went over there and I took my older bag and I took some older shoes that are great shoes and they resold the shoes and they cleaned up and fixed up the bag and it looks brand new. I get compliments all the time. Now, see, I had to spend a little bit of money to get my shoes sort of, resold and spiffed up and a little bit to get my bag spiffed up. But it's a lot cheaper than it would have been to get something new. And now I've had, how many years of use have I had out of this stuff? You get to like a decade for some shoes and a bag. You're talking, that's awesome. So I don't need new stuff. And a lot of times I'll look and I'll think, well, I already have some shoes. So why would I buy new shoes? Now, again, there are people who deny themselves anything. It's a very unhealthy thing. They talked about people walking around with holes in their clothes or when they have resources. That's unhealthy. There are other people on the other end that just go, they never can get enough. And they think, well, I need 300 pairs of shoes or 1,000 pairs of shoes. You're not gonna be able to wear all that. Well, you don't need all of that. So those are emotional, psychological issues people need to deal with, separately. But the big picture of the money, you need to love a bargain because you're either going to keep the dollar and it'll be part of your financial independence and being comfortable and all this kind of good stuff, or you're going to just let it go, and for it's going to not help you at all. And you got to remember what the article talked about with designer stuff, and you're just wasting money, and you don't have the money to waste right now because you should be trying to take the dollars to build the financial independence. After you have financial independence, then you need to look and see a small reasonable percentage of what's available for you so you can treat yourself to something reasonable and nice in a healthy way. But if you don't love a bargain, you're being taken advantage of. Remember, the whole idea is that you're trying to give people your money. If you're trying to give people your money and they won't, give you a good deal, then you don't need to give them your money. You hold on to it and then go find somebody who will give you a good bargain. Remember. You don't have to have those things. You're trying to make a good decision. Drive a hard bargain. It shows that you're thoughtful, and it shows mostly that you respect yourself and you respect your own level of financial independence. And if you have other dependents, even better. But if you disrespect yourself and you disrespect your money, then yeah, you're going to get really bad outcomes. And you're never going to have that relaxing, comfortable way of life where you don't have to really worry about money. You're vigilant because you want to have a good deal. And you remember, a penny saved, penny earned. So one of the things we've instituted here, of course, is our new show sponsor program. We love it. This show is doing so well, and I'm so grateful and appreciative to you for joining me. I encourage you to go to courtneyandерson.com, and you'll see the show notes. You also will see our show sponsor, Spotlight, and our show sponsor. We're talking about bargains, and what I'm endeavoring to do is find show sponsors that relate to the show, obviously, and that I have personal experience with. So, we're talking about a bargain, and I went and I was looking, and I thought, perfect show sponsor. Overstock.com. Overstock.com. I used to use them a lot. I haven't been purchasing anything really recently. They got it. It's a website. Again, it's sort of like the outlet mall idea, and like I said, I personally have used it for years. So everything that I recommend and we talk about and that we accept as show sponsors are things I have personal experience with. So I strongly encourage you, look at our show sponsor, check them out, click on the link in our CourtneyAnderson.com show notes, and see what types of deals and bargains are available for you. And remember, there's nothing more exciting. The reason you love the bargain, the reason you're like, oh, look at the deal I got. Like I said, people of means often will talk to people socially. You're not going to believe the deal I got. Is because part of it is that you got a good deal and you're excited that you negotiated this really great deal. But the other part of it is the money that you saved that didn't go, wasted on a bad deal that you got because you got this great bargain is money you paid yourself. So like, what's better than that, right? It's like celebrating a little, pay raise or promotion or something. So it's like a win-win of awesome. So again, overstock.com, overstock.com. Again, come to our show notes and click on it from there so that our show sponsor knows that that you came from our show, and get your bargains. And then you know what? Celebrate. Tell other people if you want to. Hey, you're not going to believe the good bargain I got on this. If you talk to people and they say, well, I don't know why you want a bargain. I went to the store. I paid full price. That is not something that people that are wealthy ever would brag about or do. And I do mean ever. So that's a clue to you. You're talking to somebody that doesn't understand financial fierceness, doesn't understand financial independence, and is what the show note quotes talked about. They're the barrier to becoming rich, and there's somebody who's just aspirational. They're never going to actually. They're a wannabe. Is what the show notes call that, right? They want to be wealthy, but they're not. And by bragging that they pay full price and expensive things, it's telling you that they don't respect themselves and their money and their long-term financial fierceness and financial freedom and independence. So all we can do is feel sad for them and hope that they get the tools to turn that around, because nothing more depressing than wasting that money. So thank you for joining me, and come to CourtneyAnderson.com and let our show sponsor for this show, Overstock.com, know that you came from our show. Click on that link in our show and get out there and get those bargains and continue to build or maintain your financial independence, because it frees up so much of that stress and anxiety that people have in life, and it gives you the opportunity now to go do more positive things and to be of service. So thank you for being part of the program today.